Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Vole, and I'm a decision mentor and inner trust guide, and I write the Unfolding Substack. I'm also the host of Unfolding Letters from the Middle of Becoming podcast, and I'm so glad to welcome you to today's conversation about midlife women and loving ourselves because we're in the middle of the summer of self-love. And that summer of self-love, I'm so excited today because Michele Marie Neyers, who writes The Sacred Art of Becoming Her, is what sparked that inspiration for me. And I'm just like so grateful because, as I started to explore it, I did voice in April and May, and we explored like what women's voices were and what trusting our women's voices were. And now we're exploring that inner voice that is just as important as our outer voice. And we know when we feel good inside and feel confident, it affects our outer voice. And so today I am so excited to welcome Michele Marie Neyers. As I said earlier, she writes The Sacred Art of Becoming Her. And so, Michele, thank you. And thank you to those of you who are already joining us live.
Yes, I
So
know. Thank you,
tell us about
Lorraine and Jen. I see two ladies' names that I recognize. Thank you so much, Erica. I was so excited when you asked me to just come and have this conversation with you. And I know we really bonded over that moment, I think, that you've spoken about, that you've written about. And hopefully we can talk a little bit about that today. Maybe tell our listeners like a little bit more of that story, perhaps. It's a story that I never, it never seems to get old telling that moment or that breakthrough moment of, what I shared. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then
Sure.
what brought you to Substack is a question I always like to get.
You always like to ask. Okay. Yeah. So I am a recovering, corporate warrior. Started my business about 10 years ago. Actually, my business anniversary, 10-year anniversary is this year. So that's very exciting. I've done a lot of different things during that period of time, some consultancy work and whatnot, but it's really only been in the last probably 3 years that I decided to really go all in on coaching, and really doing more work related to, I like to say that, it's a combination of things. It's around self-image. It's around really building that image of your future self. That's why The Sacred Art of Becoming Her kind of came about, from my own sort of personal experience, trying to figure that out or discover and explore that for myself, since about, probably 2016, 2017, just really finding different modalities, I guess, different mindset work, different feminine spirituality work and embodiment work, like all of it comes together, which is why it was sacred to me. That's why it ended up being called The Sacred Art of Becoming Her, because I truly believe that we are forever becoming someone, but we're not always consciously doing that. And so that's what I really help women think about, like the first probably half of our life, we were doing things that, and I know I was, and a lot of the women that I speak with, we were doing things that we were expected to do, or we thought was the path that we were supposed to be on because someone else maybe influenced that, or our culture, all of the things that, that come into that. And then somewhere in midlife, we kind of go, oh my gosh, and we all explain it, differently, but it's the same kind of experience, right? We bump into this threshold or this in-between space, or, like, oh, I get to like, shed all the things that aren't me, like we all speak of that in different ways. So I felt like that was, I came to that as, I'm like, this is the work that I really want to spend the rest of my life doing.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
I talk about letting go of the shoulds. Like,
Yes.
I lived the should life for so long.
For so long.
Fun, tired, exhausted, burned out.
Yes. Yes. So true. It's so true. Yeah. So that's a little bit, I guess, about me. And I've also always loved to write. I've been writing in a journal since I was in the 4th grade, and so becoming an author was always an important thing for me to do. Eventually, it took me a while. It took me some time before I became a published author, but yeah. So that's also one of my passions. And I came to Substack really for that reason. Sometime last year, actually, no, it was a couple of years ago that I created a profile, but I never really did anything with it until, we started talking about it in the community that we're in together, Erica, and I could see the potential for it. And I just jumped in. I knew exactly what I wanted to create.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I had a profile, but like it was to subscribe to other people.
Yes.
But it wasn't for me because I wasn't a writer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You didn't see yourself as a writer?
No, I wanted to be a writer when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a journalist, and all it took was a TA in freshman year English. And he's like, I think I was a journalism major. And he's like, I think you should reconsider your major. You're not a good writer.
Mm.
And that stuck. I was 18 and now I am 52. So that stuck for a really long time. And then when Julie Ciardi started talking about Substack, I was like, oh, I don't know, another platform. Not going to another platform. I was so burned out on Instagram. And then a couple of other people transferred their lists over, and I was like, maybe there's something here. So I was like, okay, I'll do it for a couple of weeks and see how I like it. I'll give it a chance, Julie, is like what I kept saying. Well, here we are, like 4 months later, and I'm like, I am not going anywhere. This is where I'm at. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah.
Sharing women's stories has become a passion of mine. So, yeah.
And it's very different on this platform, isn't it? To do that kind of work and that kind of, expression of your voice feels very different here. Like just more like what it was designed for.
Yeah.
Than some of the other platforms we've all spent time on.
Yeah, I can see.
I know, I see some Me Too's. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about how you inspired this whole summer, just sparking this one thing in me. And for those of you who don't know the story, Michele and I were both on a masterclass together, and she was talking about how human design changed her. And it just sparked something. I was starting to get tears. And the more she talked, the more I started crying. And I was like, thank goodness I'm not on camera, because this would be a really bad thing. And so then we ended. And then I just full out ugly crying. I know I wasn't the only one crying when you were talking. And then I went to pick up my daughter at school, and I could not stop crying on the drive there. It's a half a mile. It's not far. But I was just sobbing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where this is coming from.
Yeah.
But I remember Julie saying in one of her podcasts one time that we were talking about the human design gates, and that her daughter has the gate 10 in the identity center. And she said, I just wish she could love herself as much as I love her. And that really struck me. And so I was like, I have gate 10. where is it? And it's in my North Node, which for those of you who know, the North Node is your future focus. And
Yep.
I just was like, oh my gosh. And I wanted to talk to Michele. And the next morning I woke up and I meditated and I just got this download that I'm doing a whole summer series on self-love. And it was going to not just be me, and it wasn't going to just be talking to Michele. It was going to be other women, and it just needed to be a continuation of the voice series. And so I'm so grateful for the things you said and that you sparked this in me, but also I want you to share your story about how human design has shifted things for you, because for me it was a huge game changer. I don't know if I would still be walking around an upright without human design.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful for you, Erica, for having that epiphany. I love that you're doing a whole summer dedicated dedicated to this topic of self-love. I mean, it's something that we ought to be talking about a whole lot more, and having really in-depth, thoughtful conversations, about, our different experiences related to that, especially at this time of our lives, right? So, yeah, I'm usually the one that's ugly crying when I tell that story. So I'm glad I wasn't the only one. Christine said she was crying too. Aw. Yeah, and when we're on those sort of client panels, like we were, sharing our stories about how human design, has influenced or changed our lives. We only have a short amount of time really to share, right? It has to be really here's what happened, right? And it had come, the moment that I shared with everyone in the masterclass had come really after about 1.5 years of studying my own design, the way that Julie teaches us to really contemplate different aspects of our designs, and really spend time with the language, right? Because the language is really powerful. It activates something in you. Call it recognition, call it, whatever you want. But it was during one of those study sessions that I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting on my couch. I had my Gene Keys book, next to me. I had my human design book. I had some slides of Julie's. I was just sitting there amongst, all of these body graphs and, my own scribbled notes, right? And we all know what it feels like when you get sort of like an intuitive hit, right? Mine often come, I hear mine. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just feel them, but oftentimes they come with a voice. And this time, this intuitive hit came with a voice where the first inquiry was, well, how about if we study just the body side of our body graph today? Just those 13 aspects, right? Let's forget about the mind. Let's put the mind aside, right? Because I'm always over here in my mind. I had enough self-awareness at that time to know that I had felt for the longest time really disconnected from my body. And I'm sure a lot of women can probably relate to that. And so this idea of studying the body side of my design got me really excited. I was like, oh, I've never done that before. Let me start looking at the different gates on the body side. And as I did that, I was just sitting there reading about each one, and Um, again, the voice sort of came into my awareness in the form of a question. And the question was, what if you're perfectly designed? What if your body, exactly the way it is perfectly designed for the purpose you're here to fulfill? And I had never, ever thought about it in that way. And I sat there and I was stunned. You know, I had goosebumps over my entire body.
I have goosebumps now.
I know, I do too. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what? You know, I literally out loud said, what did you just say? like what was that? And it came again just a little bit differently. It was like, yeah, your body, Michele, exactly the way it is, all of its flaws, all the things that you thought were broken, that needed to be fixed this entire time, they all have a purpose. Like they're all there for a reason, and you're perfectly designed for that reason. Yeah, that's what I mean, that's really what happened. And I just sat there with it. I couldn't move. I couldn't, you know, it was just totally, I mean, it shifted something permanently in me where I couldn't go back. You ever hear of a transformation where they call it like a one-way gate, right? You go through it, you can never go back the other way because you're just like forever changed by that awareness. Like something has literally and permanently shifted in the way I was looking at myself. And it just, I've never gone backwards.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, you know, it's not that I don't look at myself, my body or whatever and say, oh gosh, you know, I really don't like that part. Like I still have those voices that come up, but immediately it's like, yeah, but you're perfectly designed for what you're here to do. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about it.
Oh, wow. And
yeah, that was the moment.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm trying to hold myself here.
It's okay. We're in it together.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge like how powerful to hear that story is, because I think for so many women, like we were raised, if you were on midlife, you were raised with this healthy dose of like magazines and MTV and like how we should be. And maybe your family, like mine, were kind and were doing, you know, would offer criticism out of love. And, you know, especially around our bodies. And I think that for so many of us, like I said this in a podcast episode, I mean, is it any wonder that that we have this like inner self-loathing? Because we were getting it from all places. And I know that social media right now is just like rampant and our kids are getting it from all the different places. But there was something very intimate about sitting with 17 magazine or for me, my favorite was Sassy magazine. And even though they said that they were using like real models, like still didn't look like me. And I think that there was something very like social media, you can look at it and you flip through the images and you're like, oh my gosh, that's what I should look like. But there were times that like I would read an article over and over and over because I think, now if I just did that, maybe I would look different. And I think that there is something, my daughter is growing up in a completely different world than I did. I mean, I'm 40 years older than she is. And I also think that like I have an awareness that I am breaking a cycle and I am not going to let her feel as awful and as crappy as I did. It still did until a few years ago about my body. And I love what you say about, you've got this download that you are perfectly designed. And I think that for me was what came up when I did human design, when I started to study my human design. It was like, I don't need to be fixed. All these years I have been trying to fix myself with self-help books and Weight Watchers in the 90s and all of the stuff. Like, maybe there's a reason my body is the way it is. And I have gifts that I never thought. I thought a lot of them were flaws, and they're
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
like, I love your story. And I also had a story, like I heard this whisper of gather the women after a sacred feminine ceremony. And like, when you talk about not being able to go back, there's the before the whisper and there is the after the whisper. And it's been 4 years and I was not the same person a month after that.
No, there's something fundamentally, maybe even at the DNA level, I think that shifts, and
Mhm.
you can't not know what you know.
Mhm.
And it's not this kind of knowing, like
Mm-mm.
a conscious thought kind of knowing. It's more just this deep inner
Mhm.
knowing of,
Yes.
like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt sitting on my couch. It felt like truth to me.
Mhm.
Like I'd never heard truth that way before.
Mhm.
And suddenly I knew that everything, I could more easily see what was false, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
all these things that I'd been telling myself, that, oh, you're less than or less worthy if you have a body that looks like this. We all have our belief systems around that, right? In the way that we think about ourselves and our body, and how we compare ourselves, right? You were talking about
Mhm.
the sassy magazine, the 17 magazines. Yeah, thank goodness we didn't have social media when we were growing
Oh.
up, because I don't know if um yeah, I mean, we were conditioned in other ways to,
Mhm.
believe whatever we believed about who we were. And yeah, I think it's part of the human condition,
Mhm.
and definitely in this culture, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what brought you to human design? Like, what was there as did somebody introduce you to it? What was
Wow.
your human design origin story?
My origin story. Oh my goodness. Um, it's interesting because I had met a woman, um, many years ago, actually back in 2014, um, when I was really diving deep into my spirituality, and I'd gone on this retreat in Thailand. And a woman that I met there, and stayed in connection with. She was living in Colorado at the time, but we met in Thailand. And we just hit it off. We just, and she, at some point, I think maybe 2017, 2018, it was several years later, really started getting to human design. And she would try to tell me about it, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. But, I was so interested in mindset work at that point, because I was studying with Bob Proctor, just like Julie did. And so I was all about that. Like, like this human design stuff sounds a little wacky. Interesting, but wacky. And it really wasn't until, let's see, when did I join Julie? It was almost 4 years ago now. No, 3 years ago. So 2023. It was our good friend Tommy Collier, who had reached out and said, "Hey, I'm telling everybody about this masterclass, and it's about human design, and Julie Ciardi's doing this thing." And he's like, "You remember her? She was studying with Bob too." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll come to that," because we had this background of relatedness, right? And I trusted Tommy, and I was like, "Oh, well, if Julie studied with Bob, like I'll go listen to whatever she has to say." Right? It took one master class though for me to say, "Okay, I'm in." Like something, I think it was just right timing. Because several years before that, I was like, it sounded a little hokey to me, but I didn't really look into it either. But there was something about the way Julie talked about it, that I trusted it. And I was like, like this sounds like it might be the time to maybe look at this a little bit more closely. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's about I started in 2022, but I really dove deep in 23, and I was studying with Erin Claire Jones, and just was like, she made it so practical because I had taken a class that was on human design, and I had like hand wrote all the notes, and I was like, this is the weirdest thing. And I read an article about be aware of the human design cult. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to let this go. But it just kept knocking. And like Erin would be on a podcast, and I was like, oh, I really like her. And then I found Julie when I was like trying to get my business going. And it just, I attended multiple master classes, but I always knew, I was like, when I get the money,
yes,
I'm going to work with her someday. But she talks about someday goals, and that was one of my someday goals. But I was like, it has to happen sooner or later at some point. And just sort of came together last September.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about divine timing too, right? Like it is all in the divine time. And you mentioned business, and I was at the time too trying to figure out, how do I had sort of exited out of the consultancy work that I was doing, which was really just a stepping stone out of my corporate career, but just as an independent, kind of consultant, calling my own shots. But that was slowly dying, dying a slow death. And so I knew I needed help with business too. And there was something about how she was combining the two that I thought there's something to this, because she would talk about, there was one line I remember she said, and I've shared this in master classes before too, that really stuck with me. And that was that all of the strategies work, but they're not all going to work for you. And I was like, right? And I was like, what did she just say? Like, wait a second. Like, it explained so much as I started to, understand my design a little bit better. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense why that didn't work. I have to go this way. And, as soon as I did, things started to click, because you come into alignment, right, with how you're actually designed to operate. And things get a little bit easier.
Yeah. So tell us about like what the work you do and how you bring in human design with the people you work with. And also I know that you do something called the Front Porch, and I want to know more about this.
You want to know more about the Front Porch? Okay. How I use human design, I'll be 100% honest. I'm still figuring that out. Like, I'm experimenting right now. I have a year-long coaching, or really, I'm going to call it a facilitated sort of circle of women right now. There's 5 of us. And I've been I've been experimenting with them. They're kind of a founding members circle. So they know that they're like helping to figure this out. And they all love the human design stuff. So it's really easy to get them to provide, feedback along the way. But I've been really loving diving into the centers with them, honestly. We've done a little bit of that. Back in May, I create like a theme every month, and the theme has some different elements in it where it's like the season that we're in. So the summer, there's a human design element to the theme. There's a becoming her element to the theme, and then a piece of the frame, one of my frameworks. And the becoming her element last month, or back in May, I should say, was who has she been? Because we had been talking about, okay, who is she becoming? But then I said, well, why don't we look backwards as well? And so we started looking. I introduced cycles to them, which was very interesting, right? Like, we went all the way back into even some of the, the Venus sequence, if people are familiar with that, and, the different developmental stages that are talked about in there, like the EQ and the IQ and the SQ. And so I went back and I mapped it out for them. And then we had a discussion about the different cycles and the profiles that are getting layered into those, times during their life. And they've loved that. So I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to go deeper into that, I think, just because they were just blown away by how much sense that made. Like, when they would look back, I think it's really powerful to reflect back.
I love the cycles so much. And I remember learning about them, and I would listen to an astrology podcast, and once in a while she'd talk about a return, and I was like, what is a return? What?
Yeah.
And I heard somebody talk about the Saturn return, and I was like, okay, that was when I was 28. Yeah. Like, okay, I guess I met my husband right about that time. Sure. Okay. I was 28, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I heard about the Uranus opposition from somebody else, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But then as I looked back, I was like, oh crap. Like, my Uranus opposition, if you go 3.5 years back, my daughter was born 3 days before.
Wow.
3 days before. 3.5 years is when we brought my daughter home from the hospital.
Wow.
So that was a huge thing for me. And then I heard about the Chiron return, and I was like, tell me more. Okay. I can see how the Uranus opposition came in. And then I heard about the Chiron return, and like almost a year before my Chiron return is when I had a breakdown.
Yeah.
So, and went through really bad burnout, and I'm like, okay. And that's a part that I don't get very deep into with my clients because of just the nature of our work. But oh man, that's an area I just want. I wanted to go so deep with them.
You could go so deep there. Yeah. Like, they were just, like deers and, deer in headlights kind of at the end of our call. They were like, and, it may have been a little too much. I tried to keep it high level, but that, I think, back to your question, right now my challenge is just, how do I weave it in a way that really does the becoming her work justice? Like, I don't want to just throw it in to throw it in just because it's cool and and it's fun to learn about your design. But yeah, like where I can tie it into my convictions and the philosophies underneath the body of work. That is, being created. It's far from, anything that's complete. But yeah, that's my challenge right now is just like how do I weave it in so that it makes sense, and what kind of foundational orientation do you need first and foremost if you don't know anything about design? Because I I decided pretty early on that I didn't want to teach human design. That I had, I really was passionate about this becoming work, and but I wanted to use it, and because I have not found another tool that's more powerful than this one. So it's an ongoing thing to try to, I think, determine how the things weave together. So that's the fun challenge right now.
Have you ever had anybody say like that they are, I don't know why this is coming up for me, but a friend of mine, when I first started to talk about human design, and I sent her, a write-up, and she said, I'm a little uncomfortable with how much you know about me. Has anybody said that they're like, that it just, and that was what struck me about human design, was like, I felt like somebody had been reading my personal diaries for years. And I thought, how do they know that about me?
Yeah.
How does this system know that about me? All I did was put in my time, date, and place of birth. What? Do you have that experience come up with any of your clients?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of them are fascinated by it, and just want to understand it more. I haven't had anybody that's really said, okay, that's just too weird for me, or most of them just lean further in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I'm uncomfortable, but tell me more.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how did you know that? Yeah. And I know you're like me too, where, I don't want to tell anyone what their design is. I want them to have moments like we've had, right, where you discover it on your own. And so that's the other challenge, is just finding ways to help people do that. Because it's not always, I don't think it's always obvious, when you say, when someone says, go study your design or go contemplate your design. Well, what the heck does that mean? So if I find I'm like needing to spell it out, right? And my Vibe Tribe is line 1. So they, they want that, like, right? So,
yes.
Yeah. But they want that security too in foundational, like, yeah, let me ground this in something that's real.
Yeah. Mine is also a 1, and they want that. Like, I do a lot of teaching, but I'm also like, I want you to see how this shows up for you over the next few weeks. And then they always come back and they're like, you would not believe what happened. I was in this situation and I had to make a decision, and I went back and I was like, what would Erica tell me to do? like not what would I tell them to do, but like, what were our questions that I would ask them that would say, okay, I know how to handle this situation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to handle it differently because of what I've learned about myself. That's always, I'm just like, yay, I'm going to give them a gold star. Because I'm like, yes, you're doing it.
Yes, exactly.
So, Michele, tell us about this front porch that you have. that's like, where did that idea come from?
Oh my goodness. It really honestly came from a desire for, well, a couple of things. We're moving into a new era,
Mhm.
right? Um, and as I was contemplating that, for myself and kind of what my role is in that, I also started thinking about um, the way we market to people, the way marketing is done. Um, I just really wanted people, people who are strangers to me as a 2-4, I really need to bring people, into my orbit, right? Let them get to know me. And the front porch just kind of came out of that. Like, what would I want the experience to be like, you know? And I've always loved a good front porch. Like, I didn't grow up in the South or anything like that, but I did grow up, you know, part of the time on a farm, and we had the porch, um, and there was always like all the most interesting things happened on the porch, interesting conversations, and
Mhm.
all of the things. And so it kind of started there and it really expanded. So yeah, the idea is that people can come up onto the porch and just kind of hang out and listen to different things. I just launched my podcast there, and well, the trailer to the um, so there's going to be some voice transmissions going on and some guest conversations that are going to come up, for there's 4 corners on the porch, and on the swing is where there's going to be these kind of two-way kind of conversations that happen. And so yeah, it all made sense eventually, because the interior of the house is where you step through, a portal or a threshold, make that decision to come closer to the work, you know. Um, that's where the different offers are inside the house. But on the
Yeah.
porch, you can just hang out and learn whatever you want and stay for as long as you want. And I don't know. So as a 2-4, I'm also very visual, so it helps me think about what I'm trying to do in the experience that I'm trying to create. And so yeah, it fits. It just fits.
Oh, I love it. I love it. When you first talked about it, I was like,
Yeah.
"Can I go hang out on the porch?" Because some of my fondest memories with my one of my
Yeah.
best friends is just, like, hanging out on her front porch with her baby, and
Yeah.
we were on the swing, and she was nursing him, and, like, it was graduate school, and, you just hang out on
There's a
those times.
certain vibe, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain vibe on the porch, and I think
Mhm.
that's why the porch just kind of stuck with me, that it's it's quieter there, it's contemplative, it's thoughtful. Um, we're not rushing around on the porch usually.
Mhm.
Hopefully not,
Yeah.
Hopefully we're relaxing
Mhm.
on a chair with a nice cool beverage, so I'm
Mhm.
trying to build that experience into to like, when you subscribe and you get your welcome email and stuff like that, I tell you that there's this tray waiting for you and these are the things that are on it, and like trying to give people a feel for what the porch is like, and just a different experience than what you might normally, or what we've experienced over the last 10-15 years, right, in the
Mhm.
online space, which is, funnel after funnel after funnel, and
Yeah.
just feeling like we're being sold to. And I wanted to create something different.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it was always like Great, you're here. Thanks for paying me money. Now, okay, now don't bother me.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a weird time. So I know I will link to your Substack, and this will be a co-authored live. So Michele, if you have any parting words you wanted to share, where can people find? They'll get access, or we'll have a link to the Front Porch. Anything you want to share before we wrap up? I do have one question for you that I like to
Oh,
ask
good.
my podcast interviewees that I just am like, ooh, now I need to know from Michele.
All right.
So what is one rule of midlife that you would like to rewrite?
Ooh. One rule of midlife.
Unwritten rule.
Unwritten rule. Gosh. I don't know. What's there is something I was thinking about this morning that may, turn into an article. This sort of title came to me, which was Midlife is Not a Magic Door. Like I see a lot of, very well-meaning, well-intended, people writing about how just, magically this happens at midlife, right? We start to, get rid of all the stuff that isn't us. And we, all of this stuff, it just sounds so magical, right? And I think the rule that I want to rewrite is, really just ties back to the work I was talking about before, which is, if you've been unconsciously really creating your life up until this point, like to start asking the question, who are you consciously becoming? And, who is that woman? Not what does she have? Not what career does she have, or, what possession she has or anything like that, but who is she? Like truly, because I don't think enough of us have really sat down with that question, or really started to come up with, I don't want to say a roadmap, because I don't see it that way. It's more, when I think about my future self and who I call her, my aspirational self, that is me. But I see it as a relationship. Like I'm cultivating this relationship with her, and that's how she comes about. It's not because I'm doing a particular, morning routine or whatever. Like we can do those things. That's all great. But I really let her, guide me, and that, cultivating that relationship with her and the conditions where she can really thrive, is what I love to spend time thinking about and just taking actions towards. So yeah, it's not like this magic door that when you turn 50, all of a sudden,
Oh my gosh.
If that makes sense, if any of that made sense, hopefully it did.
I'm like, okay, if midlife is a magical door, like seriously, like more like I'll open the door, walk over the coals.
Yes.
But okay, maybe there's going to be some bedded nails there that you're going to have to hop over to, like,
right.
It is
and
not
oh my God, I
before.
need to shed these identities that evidently weren't me. And yeah, not
I'm
a magic
grateful to
door.
be where I am, and also like this was, as I know Julie has used this, and I know Katie Russler that I've worked with has done that, talked about this, like the chrysalis, where you go in and the butterfly, the caterpillar doesn't just like grow wings. No, it becomes absolute mush,
Goo. Mm-hmm.
goo, and then completely changes form. And
Yeah.
I think that we have not been comfortable with the goo stage
Oh, so
as a
true.
society. And
Yeah.
I mean, we put women in sanitariums and because they were hysterical when really they were just going through a massive change.
Change. Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head where we aren't comfortable being uncomfortable. And
Mm-mm.
it's in that discomfort though where we really need to be. And um and just the more we can accept that, I think you know, the more beautiful the butterfly is going to be. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And the more authentic and true. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, Michelle, I am just so excited and honored that you took the time today with us,
Aw.
and thank you for saying being honest on that masterclass because it's turned into something so much bigger, and I'm grateful for your honesty and your vulnerability and everybody who is being part of this summer of self-love. I mean, Michelle, you'll see Michelle's name in the articles
Yes.
that I'm writing. She's
There's
going to
more
be
to come.
profiled. There are 10 people, 10 women, 12 including myself. I guess it's 11,
That's
um,
amazing.
who are part of this project, and you're going to hear from everybody. And I'm so excited. And Michelle, thank you for being my first Summer of Self-Love guest.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
so welcome. Thank you for having me and for just following your heart and your
Mhm.
passion on this one. I know you're gonna change, so many women's perspectives and just have them go through that one-way gate, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it just takes hearing one thing. Um, we think it has to be so complicated, but sometimes it is that simple,
Mhm.
where our attention is. And the fact that you are spending the whole summer, just putting some attention and illuminating this whole, idea
Mhm.
is going to make a big difference, I think. I really do.
Yeah.
More to
Yeah.
come on that. Yeah.
It's making me dig into like some of the origins of why we did not feel that we could love ourselves and where the origins of the self-criticism. And my next episode is going to be on shame and self lack of self-love. And that
Yeah.
episode is just like simmering and oh my gosh, I'm so excited about it. So
It's
thank
going to be
you.
so good.
And
Can't wait.
I've listened to a lot of Brene Brown lately, and I'm like,
Oh.
this is really like something's gelling, and it's kind
Yeah.
of a cool thing to be as a good generator. I'm a good responder. Like,
Yeah.
oh, somebody said this. Oh, there's an idea. So
Absolutely. That's
yeah.
how I get my best ideas, honestly. Like I just, take in, as a good
Mhm.
generator, and respond to that and kind of come up with my own thing. And
Mm.
yeah, it's beautiful when you understand like how you're designed even in that way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you. And for
Thank you.
subscribers, you'll get all the articles and the profiles. If you're a paid subscriber, you're going to get 2 workshops this summer. And I have a special project that I am working on. Michelle knows about it and a couple of other people know about it. And oh my gosh, I just cannot believe what this is going to become. And I am so excited to share it with you, but you're going to have to wait until the end of the summer because there's a little work that needs to be done. So thank you, Michelle. Thank you for everyone who joined us live. It was so great to have you. And for those of you that are on the replay, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
one, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.